Hey everybody, welcome back to the Zen Perry Project. Today we have Jamie Knox of the band Horrendous, the drummer, which I have not got to talk to just a drummer in a while, so I'm really excited about this because your music is really, really cool, and I can't wait to get into that. I got a whole bunch of questions for you. Let's just start at the very start. How did the band come to be? How did Horrendous come to be? Short version or long version, whatever you feel like going with.
It came out of us kind of meeting up in college. Um, I had always played with Matt, since we were like middle school because he's my brother. So I went away to college down in the South. We're from Pennsylvania, and I met Damien just by chance. And Matt eventually followed me 2 years later down there to college, and then him and I started playing again at school just for something to do. And one day we invited Damien to come and just play with us, and it kind of just felt good, and we just kept going with it, and that very quickly turned into the band.
Was that like you guys' goal originally? You wanted to make the band bigger than yourselves, just a brother duo, or because you guys weren't
Uh,
playing shows at that point, correct?
no, I mean we had played shows in the past with other people and other projects, but Matt and I were kind of working on like thrashy, punkish kind of stuff. I mean, Damien started playing with us, and that wasn't so much his thing, but we started. I don't know. Somehow we ended up playing like this kind of stuff that's on our demo pretty quickly. I think Matt and I just it just made sense to have a third person. We thought at the time. I don't know.
I like how this is just like serendipitous. You're like, yeah, this guy, sure, I guess we'll make some music with him.
Well, we actually did play with another person or two before him, and this wasn't like, oh, we're going to start a band called Horrendous. This was just, again, having someone else to play with us and just see what they bring to the table, kind of a thing. And they didn't work out, and Damien worked out, and I was already friends with him anyway, so it kind of was nice.
What class did you meet Damien in? Was it like chemistry or something?
He was in the same dorm as me freshman year, so I met him like within the first week of freshman year.
All right, sick. And then yeah, you're like, I want to make a death metal band, death metal
Hmm.
prog band, and he's like, sure, sounds good.
I don't
That's
know if
sick.
we didn't set out that way, but it was more just like we're
Oh,
playing death metal-ish stuff and it's cool. Let's just do it.
oh yeah, where were you practicing at that point? Because
We had
where'd you go to college again? It was down south, right?
University of South Carolina,
University of North Carolina.
in Columbia, South Carolina. We had Matt and I had rented a like public storage, that storage company, like a storage space in an outdoor place. And it was a place that we knew had other bands. So we're like, oh, we'll be able to do it. So we would just play there once a week, or once or twice a week.
Like, take me on that journey. So you went from having now you're a three piece. What was
Hmm.
the next steps? You guys were in college. You just messing around. What was the idea? Did you want to start recording? What was the
We
idea?
we were messing around. Damien kind of went to school for recording. He was like in, I forget the name. It was like media arts. Maybe it was the broad major, and he was focusing on like the audio visual component of stuff. And I mean, he'd been interested in recording just as a kid at home, at a teenager before that. So he was trying to like hone his craft. So recording was always going to be on the table because like he
Oh,
was used to early stages of his recording career, but he was interested in doing it consistently. So at some point we were playing these shows, we like put some songs together, and it became clear we should probably record like a demo type thing. So I think the first summer after the semester we started the band, that summer, we recorded at his parents' house in like probably like 2 days, a 5 track demo. So then this was at a time where like there weren't a lot of other old school ish bands kind of doing a thing. So, but Damien's very um he was very in touch with like the underground scene going on at the time, and he was aware of this. Like tape trading was kind of coming back as a fun thing with like newer bands, and Damien himself had like massive digital collections of like any kind of early '90s, '80s death metal demo you could imagine, like even the most rare stuff. So he just loved the idea of like death metal old demos So we wanted to make one, and then he was like, "Oh crap, there are some labels that like for fun put out tape demos of bands, you know." Um, so we found Skeleton Plague, who then partnered with Dark Descent to put out our demo on like a pro cassette.
All right. Okay, so the idea was more or less like we want to put out this thing that reminds us of this. I love that the whole idea of just like kind of the artistry around it. Like, so that was your first music was put out onto tape. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, the demo was cassette
Wow,
tape.
that's
I
pretty.
think we before that we probably sent it to a couple people like on a CDR, but that was literally just us like writing horrendous on the CDR and sending it to someone. But the first like real release was on a cassette tape. Yeah,
And this was what 2009, 10.
this would have been 2010, I think. Yeah, because we probably recorded it. We would have recorded it in like summer 2010, it's 2009, I believe.
Okay.
So this was 2010. Yeah,
Ah, sick. And then were you surprised to get somebody willing to put your music out, especially on tape at the time, or was this
yeah. No, it was real exciting because we again, Matt and I had been in bands forever, and we always loved the idea of like doing something serious. But when you're in high school and middle school, it's like pretty hard to do that. So like the fact that someone was taking it serious enough to put enough money to make a pro version of it was super cool. Yeah,
yeah.
it was real exciting at the time for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. I mean it sounds like Damien was like kind of the little key that just helped you guys actually go to something else. Um
Definitely, yeah.
I guess a quick tangent just because I don't want to forget about it. You guys recently just put out a video where I think one of your shows was recorded on VHS, but the audio quality was incredible. It must have been
Hmm.
like last year sometime.
I can't remember. I don't know. I
I
don't
love
know if we put it out or someone else, but
well, whatever. It looked
um,
really cool and the sound quality was incredible. It
that
looked
is
like an
cool.
old school 70s like death metal video and
Hmm.
I was gushing at it. Um
That's awesome.
I want to go back to where because you originally were not a drummer. You started on bass and guitar, correct?
Yeah, right. And Matt, again, high school, middle school, Matt and I played with a buddy of ours who was a drummer, still is. Um, and he was and is great. And I just played bass because that's what made sense with the three of us. We could have like a little power trio. We did that forever. Um, but he didn't come down to South Carolina for college. And honestly, at that point, had kind of lost interest in us just because we played all the time when in high school. It's like we probably played together like at least 4 days a week because there's nothing else to do. Um, I think it probably got kind of tiring. So he kind of like was ready for a break, and then Matt and I weren't. So it got to a point where it was like, well, let's try something new, but we probably need a drummer. And I had always for fun like messed around on my buddy's kit, not being I wasn't very good, but I just started playing more, with Matt on guitar and me on drums, and just started that way. Um, so completely a necessity thing. And frankly, if I didn't have my buddy's drum kit to like play on, it wouldn't have happened probably. So I wasn't going to go out and buy a drum kit. But his kit was just like at our house, and we just actually took it down to college without asking him. But I don't think he cared because he wasn't playing it. So
I have a few
that's
drum
how,
kits like that. Yeah.
yeah. So that's how it started. It was just completely just a necessity thing.
That's awesome. And so I guess it was just naturally like you guys didn't have to like pull a straw, and then you got the
Right, right. And I mean, if we had met Damon, he was a drummer, then I might have gone back to bass. But Damien was a guitar player, so I stayed on drums, and we just went from there.
yeah. Okay. So I mean, you just went right into drums. That's
Hmm.
um. It's also not to toot your horn right now, but you're a really really good drummer. And so
I
I mean, where did
appreciate it.
that
I
come
definitely feel like I've gotten better since then.
from?
The old. I feel like the beginning it was pretty scrappy. It's
Well,
become
yeah,
less scrappy.
back in high school when you didn't even play the instrument. Yeah.
Well, this is like college. I'm talking about is when I started.
Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
but still, it has been a while. I suppose I'm not too young.
Are you? I mean, because I know that Matt was more like had lessons. That's he more or less got started on that. Did you ever have
Right.
drum lessons or
No, and I probably should have, but I just never did.
really?
Part of the problem is I think I didn't start till I was in college and like got busier playing drums after college when like I don't know, you have less time than when you're in high school. Um,
Sure.
and also I think I was just kind of shy, like crap playing, trying to play drums in front of someone who like knows what they're doing is terrifying, you know? I think I just the idea of doing it just seemed impossible. So yeah,
It's
I
pretty,
never
I
did.
mean, it's pretty wild. You're playing prog in like in death metal, and you're playing stuff that's very it's not easy, especially
I'd
for
say I certainly worked up to it over the years. I feel like if you look at my playing, it has increased in complexity like linearly almost. So
yeah, was that always okay? So I mean, who are some drummers that you were maybe playing along to? Were you always just practicing with, other people in the room, or were you practicing by yourself as well?
that's just pretty much just with Matt, really. I didn't really have a lot of time doing it myself. I've never lived in a house with a drum kit. I'm usually like even now we practice at Matt's often, at least him and I, because we both live in Philly. The drum kit's over there because like I don't have a house where I can have the drum kit. So I've like never lived in a house with the drum kit where I can just go in the basement and play it or whatever. Um,
That's
yeah,
wild,
so
right?
all the playing's just mostly with Matt, really. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's awesome, dude. I mean, you're just going for it. You're just doing actually for the music.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's also pretty hard to have the drum set most places, so whatever Matt's got going on, that's pretty rad.
It is. I mean, I've lived in the city for a while now, and it's very hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, damn. Okay. Well, that was a lot more. So, okay, okay, well, we'll go back to it. Who were your drum inspirations, or anybody that you found
Well,
inspiration from?
I mean, honestly, my friend that I started playing drums after he got tired, like I 100% tried to emulate things that he was doing because he was very good, and I don't know how he got so good. He was one of those guys that's like supernatural. Just start. I remember when he got his kit, he was just unbelievable for like a starter. He just like knew how to do things, even though he had never tried, kind of a thing. And I definitely took a lot from him. I mean, we grew up listening mostly to like punk stuff, uh, primarily. So a lot of my favorite drummers, especially when Horrendous got started, most of the favorite ones I had were like more punk. Um, but I was newer to metal at the time. So I like Nick Menza, like the Megadeth playing, I thought was incredible. Um, all the Death drummers, the second half of Death's career, I could never play any of that stuff, but I like looked up to it. Like this is the pinnacle of what I wish I could do. Um, but I feel like I tried to kind of use a lot of like punk techniques and like make them work in metal. Um, Especially toward the beginning, I think is probably what happened.
Wow. I mean,
And like even now, like we're not a band. Like I don't play blast beats that often. If you listen to the records, like if I do, it's usually like brief little stints. Um, I feel like back then, especially, I wasn't interested in like blast beat music. Bands where it's like things like bands like Immortal. Like right now, I actually love Immortal, but back then I was like, it's just a blast beat for like 5 minutes. This is annoying. So I never cared to learn how to play blast beats well, and just over time, eventually, was like I should probably work these into my repertoire. So it really was. I was really just more interested in like punk type stuff for whatever reason.
yeah. I mean, more or less, people do compare you guys to death all the time.
We
So,
do get that, yeah, for
which is
sure.
pretty cool. It says you didn't even need to learn this stuff. You just did your
Well,
own.
yeah, I would argue the death drumming is quite different than what I'm able to do, but still, but I do appreciate the comparisons that we get. Yeah.
I think you're one of the most humble drummers we've had on the show so far. So, yeah, cheers to that. What I mean, I guess so many questions for you. This is pretty wild, just how you got started and where you're coming from. Were you guys? Let's go back even farther. Were you guys raised? I read in some interviews you guys were raised Catholic.
Hmm.
What did that mean for anything in your music career, or the way you saw and got into this style of music?
Um, it's a good question. I mean, off the top of my head, just like I remember getting into bands like Behemoth when we were, 14, being like, holy shit, this is like the scariest stuff of all time.
So you were
Uh,
actually scared by it. You were like, this is
yeah, I think that was part of the draw, honestly. And I think Matt got into it easier than me. I feel like some of the things he would hear, I'd be like, damn, I don't know if I could ever. I remember he had like a Dimmu Borgir record, and I was like, I could never listen to this. It's fucking scary. Now it's a little different, but when I was 14, that kind of stuff was just like, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing this kind of thing, man. Like dealing in these worlds and um but otherwise, I mean, I think a lot of the punk stuff too was obviously a lot about rebellion and shit. And I think there was always a little bit of a feeling of rebellion is cool and like makes sense because we did grow up in a very Catholic suburban world, which was, we had a great upbringing, but I feel like sometimes there's a part of you that just wants to like break out of it. And I think that's what punk was for us. It was our little, we're looking at bands like, nowadays, like the band No Effects, everyone's like, oh, I know who that is. But like when I was 14 and I was in middle school or in high school, like almost no one that I knew that band and the entire school. And it was like, shit, this is like our little thing.
That's
Um,
sick.
so I think that was, I mean, that's my best answer for that question.
That's
Yeah.
great. What are your what's your family think of your band now, if anything?
They're very like proud of us, and they don't. I don't think they fully get it per se, but they've always been very supportive of us doing it.
That's awesome.
Um, we've always, when we were young, we played at my parents' house, and it was loud as shit, and they never like they kind of just let it go. I think they probably viewed it as like a useful activity, versus other things we could have been doing in high school. Um, it's like you couldn't talk on the phone on the first floor if we were playing, but like my mom would just go up in her room and close the door and like deal with it being loud. And they never told us not to do it, kind of a thing. Um, and while even the punk stuff we were playing was pretty intense back then, but they didn't ever have anything negative to say about it.
Wow. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Well, cool. I mean, it's cool they're so supportive of it in the sense of just like letting you just do it.
I think it definitely helped. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so I mean, you started on bass. Um, what's like, do you think let's go kind of like more nitty-gritty into what horrendous is. Do you think like death metal is a proper label for it, or how would you guys kind of describe your music? Because I feel like it's that doesn't quite do it justice. How would you describe it in your own words?
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way too. Um, but also it's hard to like I'm not going to come out and say like we're a prog death band or something. So I think that's also a crazy thing for a band to say about themselves usually. Um, and we're not someone that sets out to be like, I'm going to write things that people deem progressive or something. Like that's not how it works. Um, Early on in the band, I think it was easier to just say we're just a death metal band. Um, I feel like now, yeah, like you're alluding to, it doesn't make as much sense probably. We've been called a lot of things. I mean, these days, progressive death metal gets thrown around a lot. The other day, I saw someone call us melodic tech death, which seemed crazy. It's not something I would use. Um, I view it more as like,
That's a lot. That's a stretch.
yeah, I view it more as like heavy metal and thrash and punk and all these things kind of like filtered through a death metal lens almost. Um, and I don't usually tell people, oh, we're a death metal band, because I think that does lead to that means something to people. And I think what that means to most people is not what I want them to think of my band. Like I don't sound like Incantation, but like that's what most people would think of when they think of death metal. And that's not, I'm not saying I don't like Incantation, just I don't, that's not what we're doing. And I don't think we have any, frankly, relation to them at all, in terms of our sound. So it's hard. I don't know, because I just think of it as a death metal lens and we do our own thing through it. And because it's not typical death metal, the death metal tag by itself is probably a little weird.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that love a lot of, contemporary death metal bands that like really don't like us. And I like kind of know why they don't, because we're not really doing what the other bands are doing in that sense.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like everyone else, we read stuff online and like there's different contingencies and fan bases and things. And I think there's certain ones that we don't really appeal to because I think we do our own thing a little too much. We like stray too much from like, true death metal type stuff. Like a lot of people would be like, oh, they're not a death metal band, but they would mean that in like a negative way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. They're
Um,
maybe they hear one part of one song or the start of a song. They're like, oh, maybe this is going in a thrash direction. This is going in that sort of direction. But then you switch it up and it gets like more melodic and Uh,
Yeah, I
I
just I just
could,
think there's some people that like kind of adhere when bands adhere more to certain sounds, and we don't. There's some individuals I think we don't do that enough for, but that's fine. I don't. That's not a big deal.
yeah, I mean, there's some diehards there. I mean, apparently, I mean, obviously, you must read stuff about you guys because I believe as Anthony Fantano called you guys that you're basically just like an underground death metal band. What does it feel like to actually read stuff about? Because there's a lot of you guys have a lot of press on you. So you're doing something that's interesting enough where enough people feel like writing about you.
Yeah, for sure, which is cool.
Did you ever expect that you would be in this place doing what you're doing?
No, I mean,
What's it like reading some of these things out there by yourself?
well, now we're more used to it now. I mean, like early on when like the Chills made the Decibel top 40 list, with Chills our first album that made the top 40 list 2012 or whatever. That was like we're like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like all like these serious publications have noticed our record and like don't hate it. This is like pretty cool. And then you start to see blog articles that'll mention you or it just felt really cool. It's like, oh, it just feels more real and makes it feel like what you're doing is worthwhile, whether that's a good reason or not. It feels that way at the time. Now, I mean, there's a lot more press just because we've come a long way. It is fun to read a lot of the times, and um, it's not always good press, but it's still it's usually interesting in one way or another.
Press, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if when you guys are writing a song, you're like, this is super fun. We like doing this. This is something interesting. You just put it out. You're not obviously you can't think about the press.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're not too
Yeah,
at this point. We're pretty comfortable just doing what we want to do.
that's pretty
I know
rad.
a lot of bands like say that, but it is true. Like, I don't know. We're not. There's nothing that we're trying to do specifically,
Yeah.
other than like challenge ourselves and do what we want to do and make something that we think is cool.
How was like just the process of making Ontological Mysterium? How was this? How was the touring? How was it received? What was something different that you guys did for this album that you maybe had not done in the past? Because it had been quite a few years between Idol.
Yeah, it's been a while. A lot of reasons for that, but um, this one one thing we tried to do differently was, typically bands will record all the drums at once and then all the guitars at once, and we that's how we used to work as well. The way we do this, we're always kind of like playing at the top of our abilities at that time. So like my playing on the Chills, if I look back, it doesn't seem hard now, but when I was recording that record, I was like, this is the hardest shit of all time because it was for me at that time. So we always are kind of doing that to ourselves to a degree. Like there's a lot of fills on Ontological that I'm like, how am I going to record this? It's fucking impossible. And Matt's like, you have to do this. It's such a cool fill. So like we're doing that every record. And we're like getting a little better at playing each time. Idol for some reason was an absolute nightmare where recording took so long. Getting takes that we felt good there were songs that I redid the drums fully like 3 or 4 times because and guitars were done on top of them and we would hear we'd have like kind of like a demo of the song, hear it a month later and we're like, dude, this fucking sucks, we have to do this again from scratch. So Idol was so bad and so little fun to make, honestly. I think it really bummed all of us out and we kind of were like, we need to make this more fun because that album like almost killed the band in a way. So this time around we decided, because we were at this point we really can only meet on weekends, long weekends at best for this kind of stuff. So when we record a record like Ontological, it was over the course of, it was like a little bit pre-COVID and then kind of over the course of like the next year once we could meet again. So it's a very drawn out thing, but what we would do is meet on a weekend and be like, we're going to try to record this song, drums, all guitars, do a vocal take, do as much as we can of the song to like, this weekend is song X, and that's all we're doing. So, number one, that's nice because you can focus completely on this idea. Number two, like, Matt's not sitting on the couch for 12 hours while I'm trying to record drums and like wanting to kill himself. So everyone's more involved. And we also tried to do it like when I was recording drums, Damien and Matt would both play with me and like attempt to do guitar takes that we could keep. So like to try to give it like a live feel, which we had never really done before either. So it was just a lot more fun to keep everyone involved. It feels better for more like
This was
feels
on
more jammed
Mysterium that you guys
together.
tried to go for more of a live feel. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I think we
Yeah.
decided we wanted to. And just to keep everyone involved. And I like this focus of like one song in a weekend, and that's all we think about. It's just
Uh,
really nice to like to keep the yeah, I don't know, keep the common thread going.
yeah.
Um, but we definitely did want to kind of get more of a live jam feel as well. We do spend a lot of time like when we're practicing just screwing around with like Alex will play a random bass thing and then I'll start playing drums and then the other two will come in and like at a certain point where like sometimes we do this it like ends up being pretty cool even though it's just a off the cuff thing where like we should try to do some of this on the record. And that's how you got some of the songs like Exogenesis and Aurora Neoterica. So like that was also something we wanted to bring in new for this album that we had never tried before.
That's really cool. So because I mean you don't have a ton of drum training. I can't imagine your stuff is easy at all. I would not if somebody called me to play your drum parts on an album, I would say no. So how was it recording in the process? How did you get used to you? I mean, I'm assuming you use a click for everything. Uh,
We usually don't. We
really,
tried that on Idol, and it was like it actually the feel of the song was we felt like it was trash.
really.
Like you lose like a natural feel.
Are you saying
To,
like most of your albums you just didn't use a click?
yeah,
Yeah, great. You got a great fucking feel, dude.
we
That's
yeah
awesome.
well we've decided at some point that it just feels better to try to get nice takes without a click.
Okay, so
And
more or
we do think it feels more natural. Idol we tried to be like to seriously use a click and be like let's do this and it just the feel was just not good. It was too much trying to play to the click and not there was the you weren't feeling the song, you're feeling the click, and I hated it, and they didn't like it either.
so okay, so you're saying because not till Mysterium did you guys start playing more with a live feel? So are you saying previous albums to Idol you were actually more or less recording individual parts onto scratch tracks? Is that right? Or without a click?
Right. So like early on, I think this is gonna sound crazy. I feel like I would
This
just
is
literally
crazy.
play the song by myself. Like
Okay.
this is like demo chills era.
Wait, what? So you played the song by yourself?
I would just like play the song.
Oh, dude, you're
That was
Stevie
kind of
Wonder.
it. Event-
Except you're not blind. What the fuck is happening?
Eventually,
I said you're fucking Stevie Wonder. You're playing the song without the music.
oh yeah, yeah.
That's insane,
Well,
dude.
we did that early on. At a certain point, things got too complex and it didn't really work anymore.
Whoa.
So more like idol-ish, I would say, is when Matt like would play with me, or at least like loosely play with me, so I had something to follow. And then like the new one was like we're gonna really try to like pretend we're playing this song together and that we're all recording, and this is you know what I mean? It was like a next level kind of thing. Like pretend we're on stage playing the song. Like how's it gonna sound? So
I,
okay, so the way we did it has kind of changed over time. Yeah.
I don't think you understand. This is so crazy. Like how you're everything that you're saying right now. That makes sense. I mean, that's a unique take, I would say, for a lot of this sort of music. Like playing to a
I
click is
realize that. I mean,
less normal, but or not, or just playing live, but not you're not doing it live or to a click. So that's like you're doing the third option that nobody
it's
ever
yeah,
does. Or you did at some point.
yeah, right. And I realize that it's. I mean, I've been around enough recording sessions to see how things usually go, but I don't know.
That's
We,
awesome, dude.
yeah, it's cool. But yeah, we've again very anti-click. Honestly, we it just doesn't feel good, and we don't like the feel that we get from that. So we're very much if there's like an acoustic passage where it's just a guitar for 40 seconds, we'll put a click on so that sounds good. But like full band parts, we don't do that.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. I mean, I could talk about that forever, but I got to move on because some people out there are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Um, so, you guys didn't play a lot of shows. I guess, from what I read, it was like maybe 40 or 50 shows in the first 7 years of your as induction before you got your bass player, Alex.
Right.
Um, so do you like recording? Was the idea you wanted to make the best albums and create the best music you could? Was that the goal, or was there no?
Uh, yeah, I do think writing, recording perhaps was our favorite thing. Maybe still is, I guess. And we're fortunate because Damien records, we kind of have infinite time, which we use the studio as a tool to like we really take our time making everything how we want it, and we can experiment kind of in an unlimited fashion. But also back when we started, no one cared about this kind of stuff really. Not like it is. I feel like now this kind of music is maybe as big as it's ever been, honestly. More people listen to Entombed now than they did in '91. I'm sure of that. Light metal was not, it just wasn't huge at that time. And like we were in South Carolina, the shows we played were like mostly to college friends that didn't care really about they're just friends of ours coming to see a show, whatever. Every other band on the bill is a metalcore band because that's what was big at the time. Um, and we were small enough that people didn't hit us up to go on tours and stuff. We just didn't get those offers. Maybe around Ectasis is when we finally started getting random show offers from people. Be like, yo, come to Kentucky and play for like $200. We'd be like, yeah, okay. Um, but in my view, only until like 2015 and beyond was when like we actually had a chance to like start touring more. Like it became a feasible thing. I'm sure early on we could have just jumped in a van and done like a punk tour and like, played to like, 5 or 10 people a night, but it just didn't seem reasonable to us at the time.
At what point were
Um,
you playing like shows that you considered big after when you started actually really playing?
um, I mean, the first big stuff we really did, well, we did open one like Decibel tour date before we even had a bass player, and we were like, holy cow, 'cause that was, probably 500 people were there, and you felt like you were playing like Wembley Stadium or something, when you're a small band. Um, but like we had our first real tours was Tribulation 2016, and then we were on the Decibel tour in 2017, and those were like we had played some decent shows before then, but that was the first time we are like consistently playing shows that like just felt super legit and people were coming and actually had interest in us, and around then I would say.
Wow. I mean, it's pretty cool. And also, you didn't have a freaking bass player.
And we
That's great.
until 2016, yeah, we did not have one,
Yeah.
which in a way I felt at the time it was cool. I was like, you know what? We're doing something different and whatever. But there was a point where we hit, it was just like, I think we got to get a bass player, man. Like we're getting asked to play more shows. The songs are more complex and like, like our demo tracks, if they don't have bass, like it still sounds pretty cool live. Getting toward like Anaretta, there's a component missing at that point. So, 2016, we decided we should probably get a player. I can't remember what the exact. I think there was some Decibel Fest we got asked to play that was also going to be pretty big, and we were like, all right, this is our opportunity to like get someone to play bass. So we did it then.
So how did that come about with Alex? How did he get in the band?
Um, well, funny enough, Steve from Crypt Sermon and Daiva, I don't know if you know those bands. He's like a shredder guitarist basically, but we got him to play bass a couple shows early on. Became clear he didn't have the time. Number one, I don't even know if he felt like he was a good fit or not. We haven't really talked about it after we stopped jamming with him. But Matt met Alex in a coffee shop. I think Matt had like a Voivod shirt on, and Alex was like, "Oh, cool," whatever. So they talked a little bit, and it was one of those things where it became clear Alex he's a big like jazz player. Um, and they had one of those things where it was like, "Oh, we should get together and jam sometime." Stuff that people say all the time that like never happens. Like
Oh
usually
yeah.
like I said, it's like no one's gonna meet up. But for some reason they followed up on it and like did jam together. Um, and I just remember Matt coming back being like, "Yeah, that guy is like crazy at guitar," because Alex is primarily a guitar player, at least historically. Um, and then when it was clear Steve wasn't going to be joining the band on a full time sense, I was like, "Why don't you ask that dude Alex to play?" From what I've heard, I'm sure he could play bass just fine. So that's just how it started. So we asked him, Al came and did it, and it was great, and just haven't looked back.
Wow.
And luckily, Alex has chosen to stay and continue playing with us because if we lost Alex, I don't know, that'd be a nightmare to get someone else to play, especially now with like the stuff that Alex plays.
Yeah, because he's you guys have a lot of material now to go through.
Right, and it's just Al plays like it's like Geddy Lee type shit too. It's like it's not stuff that someone can just come in and play bass anymore. It's like you have to get someone that's incredible to replace Alex, which would be hard to do. So
Because you're doing this interview solo and you don't have any other band member around to say anything, how would you describe each person when you're on tour? Who bickers with each other the most? Who's the chillest? And you can also say you're the chillest and the best
uh,
on tour, but
that's a
how
good
does the
question.
dynamic of the band work, generally speaking?
I do a lot of logistical stuff, so
Okay.
I'm not always chill because I'm like pissed at things that are not working out. Um,
You're like more or less the manager
I a lot of the time, yes, that I kind of fill that role. Just I don't know why. That's just how it works out.
because you're a drummer.
I
That's why.
I guess, yeah. I mean, Matt and Damien are both pretty chill, I will say. Alex is chill but very excitable. Alex gets sick almost every tour. It's like unavoidable. Um, trying to think what their other roles are. I mean, Matt and I do most of the driving for sure. Um,
Oh yeah.
give me some other roles you're wondering about for
Most likely to disappear.
uh Alex actually probably because we try to get places early and like take time to like go do you're in a new city if you have a couple hours like go do your thing but like Alex is always the one you're like worried about getting back in time. Like the rest of us are pretty you know
Yeah.
on point with timing. There was one of the Decibel Tour shows. Jamie from Midnight, the bass player for because they played right after us on that tour, had to do Alex's sound check and like really just not playing our song, just hitting the string. But Alex got in to the venue like 10 minutes before we went on, which was very scary because this was at oh
Oh,
crap, I can't in Manhattan, so it's like a huge venue where you're there all day prepping, and like Alex missed the entire thing.
we're trying to think of what venue that would be.
It
Gramercy?
was it's
Gramercy? Gramercy Theater.
I think it was that, yeah. I think it was
Gramercy
that.
Theater. Yeah. I saw Greg
Um
Puciato and Escuela Grind there not that long ago. It was pretty
It's a
sick.
cool place. Yeah, I haven't been there since that show, I think. But yeah, I just all we will never forget that show. Like Alex isn't gonna come and we're playing as a three-piece again. Cool.
You're like, why do we
Um,
do this without you?
yeah, right.
That's funny. Well, I love that. What do you do when you're I've got a few more things I got to clear up question wise, and then we'll wrap this up. Thank you so much for your time, by the way. What's next for you guys?
No, I mean we'll definitely do another record. Matt these days is like I would say like drives a lot of the songwriting. Everyone contributes on some level, but um him and I have tons of ideas, a lot of which was just a lot of it's leftover material that like not in the sense that it wasn't good enough, more in the sense that like it just didn't finish its developmental process to get to a point that was usable. So we have tons of ideas floating around, and like him and I have been talking about it a lot. And I actually texted him today and was like, we should start like jamming on some of this newer stuff next week because we have a couple shows this weekend and then nothing for a while. And I was like, we should use the time to like get those started. Again, because we're all so busy now. It's like sooner the better because it's going to take a while to get the whole thing put together. And it was 5 years between the last two records. I don't want to do that again if possible. Like 5 years from now, I'm gonna be like 41 or two. I can't even imagine like what life's going to be at that point. So you want to get this stuff done sooner or later. And we're feeling inspired and we have all these ideas. I really want to just do it.
Hell yeah. All right, cool. So you're starting writing the next thing, whatever that may be.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. Well, I got just a few more questions for you. And again, thank you so much for your time. Your music's awesome. I'm so excited to see where you guys go. And your whole story is like probably one of the wildest that I've talked to you about. Like you definitely have some answers I've never heard before.
Well, it's
Uh,
cool to talk about some of this. I mean, not many interviews get into these kinds of questions, so it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I wish I could help myself, but I don't know how to talk about anything normal in interviews. Um, what do you do? This is a question I like to ask everybody. It doesn't matter who the fuck you are. What
Mhm.
do you do if you're dealing with like imposter syndrome, or when you get into that state where you think that you aren't good enough, or you start comparing yourself, or what gets you out of that?
Good question. Um, it does happen for sure. I mean, I felt that all the whole time. So I was like relatively new to drumming in terms of someone who's like putting out records and consistently have doubts about my abilities. And over time, I think my confidence has gone up and I feel a lot better now. But there's still times we play a show and I feel like it was rough, and I'm just like, it feels terrible, and I'm like, damn, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I still have that feeling, and um, honestly, I don't really have a good answer other than to just like keep doing it, because then like to the next show after that or whatever, you might feel a lot better, and then you're like, you know what? No, this was cool. I just had a bad day, and I can do this. I think I just try to remind myself that we've come a long way and we've like done quite a bit. Compared to like where we were with like starting the band. Um, and I try to think of it that way, like we've come a long way and we're not stopping. So it's, bad days will happen, but just keep doing it. I don't know. Keep chipping away at it, I guess.
Just keep at it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I think that's been your whole thing too. It's really cool that you got to like create music with your brother, and that's like kind of been the foundation for the whole thing.
Oh yeah. And I mean, the whole band's just like good friends. I've been fortunate to every band I've been in like a serious way has been like only friends. I've never played with like a rando before or someone that we like weren't close with. So that's a huge part of our band as well. Yeah, I don't know if we'd still be going if we weren't as close as we are, because being in a band's a pain. It's like
Pain in the ass, yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to do. So you have to really want to do it. But we're all actually good friends too, so it helps a lot.
Yeah, and if you want to keep on doing what you get to do, which a lot of people would kill to be in a situation where they get to play music in front of people,
Right, right.
like that regardless of
Um,
fame
yeah,
status,
and
anything like
I do
that.
we remind ourselves of that a lot too. Especially at times when it is hard, and we're like, you know what, we're lucky we can do this at all. Like we should be happy that we're where we are.
Yeah, there's so many people out there that are, in 30s and 40s, they're like, ah, I could never play a show. It's like, yeah,
And they still could.
exactly.
Right.
You can still do it.
I
Like,
mean, we didn't set out to do to become what we are. It just happened. Like,
hey,
I
just
didn't really know what happened after we like got that. Again, when that demo got put out by the label, we're like, oh, this is sick. I don't really know what was going to happen after that. And it was a very gradual process, but like people just gradually started to care, and then one day you end up and you're putting out Ontological Mysterium, and it's cool.
hell yeah. Where do you think where do you think your favorite places to play around the US have been? Do you have any particular
Um,
memories or any certain cities that you always have a good crowd?
I mean, a lot of the Mid Atlantic places are good to play just because partially we've done it a lot and have a lot of friends there, but like the interest is high too. Like when we play Brooklyn, it's either sold out or almost sold out every show. Like there's just people just really want to come and are just super jazzed to see you, basically.
Yeah.
But in addition, we had this like kind of like a Southwestern tour this last summer, as like kind of like a pre-album release tour. And that was when it was, because Damien's baby was due like the end of August, or like the album and the baby due date were way too close, which was just really unfortunate. So we did this tour in July before the albums. We're like, well, there's at least singles out and we can play those. But anyway, we played a bunch of places we never played before, and like Los Angeles is always pretty cool. Oakland is always pretty cool. We played in this small city called Atascadero, which is kind of just in that middle part of California. But and there's not much there. But because of that, all the kids like, high schoolish age kids don't have a lot to do. And somehow a little scene has formed there. So we played there. I haven't played a show in like a tiny town like that in years, because it just usually doesn't make sense, right? But the show was like the place was packed out. There was no room to stand in the place. Kids were like crowd surfing and shit, and like stuff that we don't even usually see in most of our regular shows. It was like going to like the craziest punk show because these kids were just so amped to have a band in their town like ripping. So they like gave the energy right back to you. And that was seeing that was really cool. I haven't seen that from the stage point of view in a very long time.
Do you remember the name of the venue?
It's at a coffee shop actually that does shows.
None of them.
Um, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it would be easy to figure out.
All right.
There aren't even that aren't that many coffee shops in town probably, but it's like just a very cool experience. That was one that I remember quite a bit. Um, yeah,
You guys are really living that dream. I love to hear it. Dude, the new album is incredible. Yeah, because I really just get on your whole discography, and it's really cool to see like where you guys come, and you can see where you're pulling all these different like ideas from, and every single piece of music. I mean, every single song like kind of takes you on a little journey, but at the meat and the balls of it hits you right in the face. It's good. It's really fun music to listen to with your friends. You instantly know what it is, and it's a good fucking time.
and honestly, we want to try to make it fun, and like that's something we,
Awesome.
especially on the new record, we're like, this needs to be fucking fun. And honestly, I think a lot of bands like they don't not want their records to be fun, but they're not thinking about making the records fun. A lot of our contemporaries, I think, and that's not. I'm not trying to talk trash. I just think like the mindset is different.
I think that's what
Um,
you're talking about with like Idol and or into this next album as well. It's like you were like, what the fuck? This isn't fun anymore. I need to figure out
right,
if it's fun or else we're dead. Like
exactly.
we're dead in the
And
water.
I think we wanted to have more fun doing it in addition, like you're saying. And like my favorite thing about like a lot of metals, like I listen to Judas Priest and it's fun as shit. There's like a life and a joy in it, and we wanted to, despite being a death metal band, like have that too, you know?
Hell yeah. Shit's almost danceable. It's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah, that's good.
I can't wait to see you guys whenever you play with St. Vitus again because we're in Brooklyn at the moment. Man, this has been so fun. I guess just last thing for you. What do you have to say to the audience out there? Anybody else out there listening that needs to hear something from you?
Um, well, thanks for listening, of course. And I don't know if I'm babbling too much about drum stuff, but appreciate anyone that like cares about the band and is listening and comes to see us play. Like, it means a lot. And if you keep doing it, we'll keep making music. I guess if people stop caring, maybe it won't be worth it anymore. But people that actually care, thank you, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean, dude, you're really inspiring as a drummer. It's really cool. See, I've watched a lot of live videos of you today. I'm like, dude, you're doing some crazy creative shit. And like, I don't even think you realize like how I don't know.
What's funny, I feel like a lot of what I do is it ends up being like, I don't know how to put this, but like there's a lot of drum things I can't do. So like the way that I play is like I feel like I have a style because it's just what makes sense to me. And like maybe some other drummers couldn't do that, but there's like stuff they could do that I definitely can't do. Does that make any sense? It's like
Yeah.
I have like a world that makes sense to me that I can work in, and I try to push myself as hard as I can in that world. I don't know if that makes any
Well,
sense.
I would definitely say, especially the way you record, you're definitely taking it the hard route as
Yeah, I guess
well,
so.
how you've done it
Yeah,
in the past, where
certainly, certainly. Yeah.
you're like no click, no live. I'm just gonna play this. That's wild, and you could tell. I mean, I think it really comes, from you and Matt, just like kind of just vibing so well, and just realizing that
Hmm.
the music has this like this telepathic thing that you have between like brothers or just somebody you've played with for a long time.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So it like just gets in your bones, and then you can actually make something with it and get creative with it. It just
Hmm.
instantly sort of happens.
Right.
Fucking stoked for you guys. Like yeah, no, it's just been really cool. As me and Michael were just kind of researching you more and more this week, we were just like, damn, these guys are you guys are onto something. I don't think you need us to tell you that, but people are very excited about you and your album. And I'm when do you think you're gonna be playing like more shows next? Do you have any?
Summer we're talking about like a tour in the summer in the US, but that's still being discussed, but summer probably.
Yeah, we need that baby to grow up quick so we can so you can
Right,
have
right.
that again.
Agreed. Yeah, we're trying again, we're trying to be very smart because we just had those album release shows and we're like, all right, let's do a tour in the summer, but we'll do nothing until then. So then like you can take a big chunk of time we're being very baby conscious here.
Horrendous is being very baby conscious. I just
Yes.
like that's the line of the whole show. Love that. And I think yeah, well, can't wait to see you guys. Thank you so much for doing this interview. And yeah, I have nothing. Yeah, this has been a pleasure, dude. Thank you so
Yeah, it
much.
was fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Have a great rest of your evening, all right?
Yeah, you too. Appreciate it. See you
Bye.
guys.
Hey, for the love of God, please subscribe to our Patreon for like $1 a month. That would help out a lot. Podcasts are, fun fact, really expensive to run, and I really enjoy doing this. So if you want to keep on seeing stuff like this, help me out. Also, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I really hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.